the seed first have to die before a new plant can emerge. So that fade process between when you plant the seed and when the seed die, it creates something totally different. You see technology playing a big part in what you're doing. So whatever you're going to do is increasing exponentially. So how can you use technology to assist you in riding those trends or trajectories? A vision needs to be clear, because if the vision is complex, it will lead nowhere.
Why change? Why continue? Why develop? I mean, what was the why in your process at CMI at the time? What was the why there? What was your why? And what is your why today?
Yes. And my why even had to do with the things that people thought impossible. Was why not? I put a not on the why. Why not? And the why was to look beyond where you think you were, but look at the problems that you can solve with the things that you can do. And that was the first thing. How can I move my environment to make it one of relevance? So how can you use education to solve some of the national problems? Unemployment, to solve the national problems in discipline, to solve the national problems of how can you use a small country to change a product that can stand among the best in the world. These are some of the things. Why not? Why and why not? So the whys were how to move the needle from 0 to 80 in a record time. And to do that, you have to step out of the traditional environment. How do you get into that space? To operate first, you have to win people's confidence, which is not easy, that you want to do this in a way. So, in other words, you have to believe in something that is not there and lead others through it with you to get to something that you will find along the way. It requires a level of madness, Jamie.
You mentioned
Yes.
complexity is not linear. What do you mean by that? Complexity is not linear.
Because many times we want an output. We try to define the input to get that output. But I think it was something I recall from Boston Consulting Group I was reading. They said complexity have increased sixfold since the 1950s. But it translates into a 35 times increase in complicatedness. So when we start with to increase something to accelerate to the level of complexity, it's going to create some level of complicatedness that's beyond. So you have to realize that when you're trying to solve a problem in a realm of complexity, you're going to create more problems. But within those problems are hidden opportunities. So you have to shift from the space that you expect to get the results, to see first more madness, to see first more unstructured operations, and out of that you can pick winners. So there's a level of disjoint. It is like when you plant a seed, the seed first have to die before a new plant can emerge. So that fade process between when you plant the seed and when the seed die, it creates something totally different. It creates something totally different. Yeah.
I want to ring the bell here. Take the time and ring the bell. Ding, 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 ding. I mean, I want to propose this way of thinking or this perspective that complexity is different from being complicated.
Yes.
I want to propose a shift in perspective towards things that we are uncertain of how it works how to solve it, what the outcome will be. Whenever we are unsure and we are forced to make a decision, I want to propose viewing it through the lens of being complex and not complicated. Why?
Yes.
And it's a lot to do with semantics. It's a language thing. I believe when we deem something complicated, it challenges our point of view, our ability to view it from different angles, perspective, and to come up with a process into making a decision around it. Because it's complicated. Let us simplify it. And you find that whenever we see things as being complicated, what human beings normally do, we have heuristics, or basically shortcuts in our minds that we use to make a decision, because we think it's complicated, and the heuristic sides take over, and we just make a decision on something that we see and we think, okay, that's the way to go because it's complicated. However, if it's complex, it doesn't need to be complicated. If it's complex issue, it warrants a process. It warrants a way of thinking about it. It warrants not understanding every bit of it or not knowing what the outcome will be. It warrants a sort of, an understanding of what it is that we are molding the decision to be and working within that frame. So it warrants framing and making a decision based on a deliberate process, because complexity does not always need to be complicated.
Many times, your roadmap have to depend on first identifying drivers for change. You cannot manage them, but you can identify.
Mm.
One of the things that come to mind was you see technology playing a big part in what you're doing. So whatever you're going to do is increasing exponentially. So how can you use technology to assist you in riding those trends or trajectories? You have to look at the various trends in that things are changing so rapidly. Because from the market standpoint, in other words, when I'm dealing with a complex situation, I like to start from the end or not the beginning.
Inversion.
I like to start from the output. Yes, inversion. That is it. Jamie has said it. Inversion. How can we invert the situation? To see, first of all, where would I like to go? And what are the main trends? Our vision needs to be clear. Because if the vision is complex, it will lead nowhere. When you have a situation, you have to first atomize it, break it down into atoms. Then you pull from that the most important elements. And from that, you pull the most important element. Because the more complex the situation, the simpler the vision should be. And for example, what you're about has to be so clear, like Nike. So let's just do it. Let's do it. You have something very complex. But as you rightly said, Jamie, complex is not complicated. And the more complex it is, the simpler in defining the direction has to be. You give people a direction of motion. When they are walking or running, trust the power of momentum to increase where you want to go. Don't define that increase in the direction of travel. Leave that to momentum. Leave that to momentum. You have to be careful to constantly be checking and rechecking the direction you're asking people to travel, especially when you're changing direction. You're asking them to go somewhere different where there's no path. And that's part of it too. You're saying, follow me. We're going through the waters. You're going to ask, Where do I put my feet? He said, trust the first step. The second one will take care of itself. That's the sort of process where people, oh, I'm going to drown. And you're saying, keep walking. The more you walk, is the more buoyancy you'll develop until you start to move on water. In other words, yes, go ahead, please, Jamie.
No, I'm going. We're entering some rabbit holes now. Let's dive. Let's dive in. Right. You mentioned something that I feel that we need to unlearn, which you said that let's not define the momentum. Let's in the direction we are travel for ourselves. Let's leave that up to the momentum process to decide how fast we travel. What do you mean by that? Dive deeper on that for me.
Many a times people want to know the wind speed that they'll meet. They want to know where the potholes will be. They want to know all the details. But if you dive into these details, you're going to miss the opportunity. First, just agree on the direction of travel. Adjust your sails and move. While you're going along, you keep adjusting. But the vision will point in the direction of where you're going. And that's the critical thing. Follow your nose in a direction. Follow your nose, because while you're moving, there are parts you're traveling that are going to be valleys. While you're going along, it's dark. But keep telling yourself that's not your destination. You're on a journey. You're on a journey. You have to keep encouraging, keep motivating yourself on the journey. Because you're going to find you spend more time going through valleys and tunnels. That if you want to get to the destination so quickly, just as I said, focus on the process and keep adjusting the process, because the obstacles that will come along will keep increasing, they'll keep changing. But you just keep adjusting, and your main thing is to keep the direction of travel. Keep the direction of travel. Keep the vision.
Thank Fritz for being with us, and thank you for joining the Unlearn Show. I hope that you created a new memory. Join us next week as we seek to unlearn, to rethink, to undefine, and to create a new memory. We hope that you were inspired. Thanks for joining.